Hello everyone and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show, where I try to help you spend your wine dollars wisely. I do that by reviewing the wines, grading them, and then it's up to you. I review, it's up to you. It's your palate. You decide whether you like it or not. But I like to think, I do like to think that I know something enough about wine to help guide you to a wine that you will like. And as I've said so many times, and I'll say it again, I think wine critics that work with the public, selling them wine in a store, have an advantage over a wine critic that just writes and reviews wines and never has to face a customer that did not like the wine that you presented to them. So what happens to guys like me, and I know there's other wine writers out there, Bill Iyer, Cuvée Corner, he's a wine steward in a Safeway down in San Diego. He knows how to ask questions and how to get people to get the right wine into the right people's hands. I know that Gary Vaynerchuk, Wine Library, he worked on the floor selling wine to people. So what we've developed, and what I call it, and I suppose somebody could debate this with me, is a retail palate. In other words, we know the qualities of a wine that will appeal to most people. And, that's the way I approach wine. I know there's aspects of wine, I will not deny it, balance, of fruit, acid, tannins, good flow across the palate, seamless flow. But those are all the things. Those things are what people are looking for. And then, of course, the bottom line. The bottom line, as you all know, is quality to price ratio. In other words, if it's a $100 wine, will that person drinking that wine feel good about spending $100? If it's a $10 wine, will they feel good about spending $10? So all those things, those are all the factors that are presented to us as wine guys, especially those who work at the retail level. So, there you go. So today what I wanted to do in this episode is look at a winery that I have a lot of respect for out of Washington State. It's Woodhouse Wine Estates, Kennedy Shah wines. I think this is, one time on Twitter, I think it was on Twitter, I put that they flew under the radar, and somebody gave me a bunch of crap and said that, they have it at Costco. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I don't shop at Costco for wine, so I wouldn't know that it was there. But actually, being in my community, even though my community is small, but in the summertime it's not small, a huge amount of people. A lot of people aren't familiar with the Kennedy Shah line of wines. So, it is true that they also have, and this is weird, it's Woodhouse Wine Estates, they have Kennedy Shah and Hudson Shah. And I always felt that sometimes I think that can be a detrimental to a winery to do that. And, because it's label identification. Label identification is so important. When you walk up, Kendall Jackson, you know the label when you see it. Parducci, classic Duckhorn. Those are great wines. So Duckhorn does other labels. They do Decoy, and they do Canvasback in Washington State. But Hudson Shah, Kennedy Shah, very close in name. I think it's a little confusing, but it's their winery. They can do whatever they want. So we're going to look at two wines. We're going to look at a white blend that they do. It is Kennedy Shah 2013 Anti-Meritus Picnic Blend, Columbia Valley white wine. And this is a blend of, let me give you a little shot close up here. So I like their labels. They're, very kind of colorful and jazzy. And this is 59.8% Riesling, 35.2% Muscat, and 5% Gewürztraminer. And it's going to be a little sweet. I was like debating, should I go red first and then this one? I'm just going to go white then red. Sometimes you can go backwards. You know, you can do it the other way because the sweetness of the wine can affect the red. So what we'll do is we'll take a little mouth rinse on the red wine. Let's give this a little rinse. So anyway, Kennedy Shah represents great values. Their wines are very reasonably priced. And I tell you, their Malbec is really good. Their Merlot, which we're going to try here, I've always felt is one of the better Merlots in Washington State. And I say they fly under the radar because a lot of people that I run across have never heard of Kennedy Shah wines. So, let's see what we get on the nose. Ooh, I like the nose on this one. I get a little bit of honeydew melon rind on it. A little bit of grass. I'm definitely getting some lemon in there. But the honeydew melon and the rind of the honeydew melon really come through. Some white flowers, which a lot of times with these types of wines, especially with the muscat and the Gewürztraminer, you get that more aromatics. But you know, it doesn't smell sweet to me. It actually is making my mouth water because it smells, you know, it has nice citrus notes to it with the honeydew melon that really, you know, make it smell like it's not going to be sweet. But let's see what we get on the palate. What a nice surprise. This is dry, but you get that the muscat comes through, that get a lot of that orange citrusy notes coming through. Definitely a little bit of grass notes at the very back end, but that's not the dominant part of the flavor profile. The citrus, the lemon, the orange, all those coming through, and very good acidity. It's very bright on the palate, which, you know, is a nice. I mean, with that kind of a combination, your first reaction is going to be that this is sweet. Although we do know that Riesling can be dry on many occasions. So they go in the dry route on the Riesling here. Of course, now for those of you that like the sweet wines, you're not going to like this wine. It is very dry, very citrus driven. I just get that tangerine, mandarin orange, lemon zest thing going on big time on the palate. This would be a beauty with oysters, mussels, anything like that. It would be, you could have it with roasted chicken, although it's not round enough for that. This is nice and dry, nice and crisp. I love this wine. This could be a good cocktail wine, meaning, I don't mean blend it with anything. I mean by itself, just to enjoy, very crisp, nice wine. You know, I'm even getting a little bit of minerality on the back end, and the rind part of the honeydew melon comes through right at the back end. But nice balance, good acidity, nice and dry, very pleasantly surprised with this wine. I would have been okay if it was sweet. I really would have been okay. But it's not. $14, it's a good play. I'm going to go B+, A- on that one. I think it's an excellent wine. Now, let's move on to the red. And really, I'm kind of just doing Washington wines a couple of times here this week, just because, you know, I'm very proud of the Seahawks for making it to the Super Bowl for a second time. Very, very proud of them for doing that. And, you know, they're NFC champions. And, you know, we come from Washington State. We should be proud, no matter what happened in the Super Bowl. And I believe they'll be back sooner than later. So we're going to show a little Washington, just a little Washington love. We got Washington Wine Month coming up next month, so I don't want to get too carried away. This is the 2011 Kennedy Shah Merlot, Columbia Valley. Now, just to give you an idea, when I say that wineries are flying under the radar, they're still on 11 Merlot, and there's a lot of wineries that are on to 12. Some are even starting to get into 13s. So I know they probably made a lot of this wine, but still they're on 11. It's okay with me. It's got a little bit of age on it. Let's see what we get on the nose. So nice dark cherries and a lot of currants coming through on the nose. And I've mentioned this many times before, and I know that you're probably tired of me getting on this soapbox, but some of the best Merlots in the world come from Washington State. I mean, I think it competes in many ways with the right bank of Bordeaux, honestly. I like this. I get violets on the nose, currants, a little bit of rose petal coming through. A little bit of leather, which is intriguing. A little like perfumed leather, like somebody soaked the leather with a perfumed currants, cherries, notes with, yeah, absolutely, that's what I'm getting. And just a hint of tobacco. Let's see what we get on the palate. Just a beauty on the palate. I mean, you get tobacco, you get currants, there's definitely a dark cherry note coming through. The leather element is there, like a really worn leather on the palate. A little bit, I mentioned tobacco. The tannins are soft, but they're there. There's good acidity underneath. You know, it really is like somebody crushed violets and just, crushed them into a pulp and stirred them in. Violets, big time. Love that in a red wine. And maybe you can get violets, but, sometimes if you set your mind to thinking, okay, what does a violet smell like? That it's the smell. We would never eat violets, right? But that smell transferred into the palate is there. And the interesting thing about that is, 90% of taste is smelling? So you get the idea, don't you? But this is really nice, good acid, very, very seamless across the palate. And it lingers. I get the cherries and the currants and the violets all lingering on the palate with that kind of worn leather element coming through, which is really nice. Even a touch of grip. So there you go, a Washington winery, Kennedy Shah, Woodhouse Wine Estates. Excellent winery, excellent wines, excellent values. That one rolls in at $15, and it, like I said, I'm going to go B plus A minus on that one. Also, feeling generous today. I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm kind of come to grips with the fact that the Seahawks, we'll just have to wait till next season. And I appreciate you watching, and thank you, Matthew, for making a comment. You're a good friend, and I wish I could get more of you to comment. It really means a lot to me when you make a comment. It doesn't have to be a big deal. But how do you feel? How do you feel about Washington Merlot? How do you feel about Merlot in general? Have you allowed that movie Sideways to jade your thinking about Merlot? Or is it just something that you've always felt like you don't like Merlot? Let me know. Make a comment. Thanks for watching. Remember, wine is not a mystery. It's just fermenting from grape juice. Trust your palate and always be willing to try new things. If we do that together, we can take the snob out of wine.